Welcome back, everyone, to the Ask Dr. Be Good show, the show where we bring you the interesting, the fascinating things happening in public education. And sometimes it's not things, it's people. And so today we're going to focus on a couple of those interesting people. But before then, let me catch you up on a little bit of legacy news. These podcasts, especially during this COVID period, have become another one of our communication threads to keep parents informed of what's happening in our district. So last night, I started writing a letter about the fact that we had our first employee tested. And luckily, I didn't send it out last night because by this morning, we had a second employee who had come up positive. And so there are protocols for that. And so our protocols kicked in. And you saw, some of you received letters and explaining the fact that because we had the two employees who, by the way, did not prepare meals, did not prepare the summer packets, but they still were in our buildings in Mesquite, we felt that from a safety standpoint, it was important that we close the building, self-quarantine those employees, and move the food sites and so forth. So let me just mention that we will not be giving meals out in Mesquite. What we've done is to send out where nearby food sites are that belong to other school districts, and they will welcome you just like we welcomed students from other districts. So it's on the website, it's in your email, and more than likely we'll put it up on the Facebook page as well, so that you can pick up your meals in any location on that list. So that's number one. Number two, because we do need to clean the buildings, we ask that that you understand that we stay closed and let us do what we need to do according to the CDC, according to the Dallas County Health Department, etc. Plano is open. Please, let's make sure everybody understands Plano's open. Plano's sending food. Plano is receiving, can receive parents who want summer school packets. And if by chance you're a Mesquite parent and you need to drive to Plano to pick that up, we'll be happy to serve you. And yes, graduation has been moved. Most of the people who have had to self-quarantine because they were exposed to the two employees were going to be helping us pull off this very unique ceremony. And without those bodies to help us direct traffic with kids, take temperatures, and so forth, without them, we wouldn't have been able to do that. Matter of fact, two of the school directors have to self-quarantine, and then our counselors have to self-quarantine. So you see that major players could not come on the 13th, and so we made the decision that the 20th, which is the day after our 14-day period is over, would be our next Plan B quarantine, graduation ceremony. So I want to thank you in advance for your understanding. Seniors and senior parents, you should have gotten a letter several hours ago about this, and we hope that we'll make the graduation ceremony so special for you that you won't mind that you waited another week for it. Okay, so I think I've gotten all my information out, except maybe to say that the graduation ceremony will be at the same place, the same time, same location, as it would have been on the 13th, just on the 20th instead. And keep your fingers crossed. We had two legislators. We had a legislator coming from Mesquite area, a guest speaker, and then I believe we had City Council from Plano also lined up. So our hope is that they will also be able to join us as far, and also all of our board. Okay, got the housekeeping items out of the way, so now I'd like to turn to our guest today, and let's go ahead and put the camera on our board president, Mr. Byron Ricks. And Byron, welcome. I like your hat, by the way.
Hello.
Byron,
Yeah, it's a nice hat. I gotta admit, nice cap. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your history with Legacy?
Well, sure. First, I like to say that if those of you are looking at me, I am working from home, quarantined like most folks are. Some are going back to the office, but I was asked to stay here, so I didn't shave or anything.
You didn't have to give that away.
uh, I know, right? But hey, what was your question? I'm sorry.
What's your history with Legacy? It's so long that be careful about using up all of our time
Right.
because we do have another guest.
Okay. Well, I think, I'm one of the original, well, I don't want to say founders. I don't know,
Yeah, you
founders
are.
might not
You
be the
are
word.
of all the board members. You can say that you were with me
Yeah.
down in Austin.
Yeah. So yeah, Dr. Good and I think 2011 was it? Oh my
Yes, sir.
God.
2011.
Yeah. So we put together a package. We went down to Austin, and thus, Legacy was born from that. And here we are almost 10 years later. And I've been the board president all that time. Uh, I'm, I've enjoyed the ride. And you know what? I say that. There have been ups and downs.
There have.
There's been times that I've enjoyed the ride. There's been times I was wondering why I was riding. So,
Yeah. Okay. Me too.
okay. But yeah.
So okay, we'll explore that a little bit further. Let's see our other guest, Miss Meegan Bauer. Hi, Miss Meegan. Can you tell us how you happened to land on our board?
I yes, I became interested in charter schools as an alternative to public education systems and was exploring that. And I met Dr. Good along that path, and I practiced law professionally. And eventually, we talked about me joining the board. So that's
Well, you're being
that's
very
how I came
concise.
to join this
You're
board.
being very concise, as a lawyer usually is, but you have an interesting story, and that is that you shadowed me for how long? How long did you come 2, 3 times a week and follow me and see if you wanted to do what I was doing? How long of a period did you do that?
Maybe a semester, I think.
Yeah, it was a good 4 or 5 months, and
Yes.
we were at the Mesquite Church location. I remember that.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you and I would go over to the Dallas church location, sometimes to the Richardson church location.
I,
Those were the early years because
yes.
we were
I
in
think
churches
I met you and you'd been open a year, maybe.
a year. So, because
You'd only been
were you at
open a
did you
year.
ever go to our Richardson church, or was it Plain?
Yes.
Richardson? Okay, so that
Yes,
was our
the
second
Richardson
year.
Church. Yeah. Hmm.
And I just remember memories of you and I rushing to the car, rushing to another church, school location, rushing. We were always rushing, weren't we?
Yes.
And so,
And in the beginning, there was just endless activities. I remember you renting a U-Haul and driving. We were driving a U-Haul full of office supplies and tables and things that you had.
donated furniture.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. God was looking out for Legacy. We got a lot of donated furniture back in the day, and I did several years of renting 24-foot U-Haul trucks and driving them around town. Yeah. So I don't do that anymore, and I'm okay with that. I don't miss it. So
That's good.
well, we had 65 employees back then, 800 students. we have now evolved to 1,600 students, possibly as many as 19 next year if they all show up. And we're now to 190 employees. So luckily, economy of scale, we're able to now have a facilities director who can take the hit as far as driving the truck and being able to delegate that out. So I did my turn, but now it's somebody else's turn. So Byron, I remember when you talked about our ride, if you'll remember, House Bill 2 came in 2013. And House Bill 2, sorry, Senate Bill 2.
Senate
said-
Bill 2,
yeah,
right.
Senate Bill 2 said that if a charter went low performing for 3 years in a row, it would get shut down. It shall, and not a may, it shall. And they made it retroactive to 2012. We opened it in 2012 when it was safe to open 3 K-7s in the toughest zip codes in town. And
Right.
so because they made it retroactive, and because we took the big kids, we took kids in 5th, 6th, 7th grade who came with some tough academic gaps, we went low performing 2012 and 2013. Do you remember back,
Yes.
how did you feel about, did you think we were going to get out of that IR, IR was, I'm blanking out, but low performing.
Our status.
Yes, our IR status, year 2. What were your thoughts then, and were you on the board by then, Meegan?
I think so.
Yeah, I think you were.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the first year, yeah, I was
first.
involved.
Yeah, she was involved. She wasn't on the board that first one. The second year, she was. To answer your question, though, I am an optimist by birth, I believe, and so I always believed that we would get off IR. But they say faith is just the evidence of things hoped for. So I didn't know, and I couldn't see it, and I didn't know how it happened. But I did know that you were working very hard. I did know that the board was working very hard, and I knew all the teachers was working very hard. I knew the students were working very hard. I knew that everyone involved in that process was doing everything within their physical and psychological powers to make this happen. So I was very optimistic. But I do remember, interestingly enough, when we came to a point where we thought we might have to bail out or allow the school to be taken over. We just wasn't sure. And I remember Meegan. Meegan said, "Are we gonna fight?" and she hit her fist on the table. And I'm always used to mild meek Meegan, right? But but when she said, "Are we just gonna go down?" I'm paraphrasing her, of course, but we're gonna go down. We're not gonna fight. And she hit that table with her fist. It renewed the energy in me, you know. And I said, I got a board member here that wants to fight, and I think she kind of kicked that rally off, if you will, and she became the cheerleader, and she lit a fire in my mind under me, and probably on the rest of the board. And so I've told her that before. We've talked one on one. That's a very poignant moment for me and I think about when we were going through that IR status situation when Meegan kicked it in and said, "No, we're gonna fight this thing."
because, yeah, you're making me remember that we had looked at possibly another bigger charter taking us over.
Right.
And so we were in serious discussions with them, because we were in year
Right. Because
3.
what we were trying to do, we didn't want to lose the school. Right. But we came so close so many times to losing the school through no fault of our own. And everyone can't say that, but in our case it was true. It was always Senate bill, something passed, or there was always some new legislation. There was always financial issues that, again, had nothing to do with us, but it impacted how we had to do business. And
That's right.
so that's why I said earlier, it was a fun ride. Like, for instance, that very first graduation, I enjoyed watching those kids walk across the stage because I felt like all of the effort and work that we were putting forth and had put forth was paying off. But then there was times when we were sitting there saying, okay, we put this work in, we don't want to lose it. How do we hold it? How do we keep it? And, if I wasn't already bald, I'm sure that would have helped, that contributed to some of my baldness.
Well, and I remember that year 3 when it was pivotal. If we didn't get off IR that third year, which was
Right.
our 14-15, I think, our 14-15, we were already IR2 the first 2 years. We had investors who had invested in us to renovate what turned out from the Richardson Church to the Plano location, because the Richardson Church pastor had died shortly before we
Right.
got approved. And his son-in-law, the assistant pastor who inherited the church, we weren't his dream like we were the dream of the original pastor. And
Right.
so that became a not very comfortable situation. So by our second year, we were frantically looking for a new location. We found it
Right.
in the Haverty's building on Accent Drive in Plano, near 75,
Right.
and which was next to that.
I remember walking through that building
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
and Dr. Good is a visionary, you know. All I saw was a big building. It was an empty building where she saw classrooms and labs. I just saw pipes and just space, you know.
What I saw was that it was less cha-ching because we didn't have to take down walls. All we had to do was put up walls. And so
Yeah.
that was a primo location. And so we had
Well, it is,
investors.
but again, you had vision, and myself and the board, we were very fortunate that we trusted in your vision, because we had a vision for ourselves as board members, but you were in the trenches. You were in the trenches.
Well, if we hadn't gotten off IR2 and
Right.
if we had gone IR3, not only would all the schools close, but we would have bankrupted that investor, that family. That was a family,
Right.
the brother and sister, and we would have bankrupted them. And so, talk about not sleeping at night and knowing that we had
Those were tough times.
huge responsibility to our school community, to our investors,
Right.
and, to staff. By that time, I think we probably had 85 staff. We'd grown quite a bit. And so, yeah, and so, it's amazing when you look back and see how pivotal each one of you were to the
Right.
journey forward, right? Now we can
Right.
say, well,
Right.
Meegan renewed everyone to carry forth and keep fighting and maybe not
Right.
get taken over by another charter. And
Right.
we got off.
Well,
IR.
it's interesting. I apologize, I
No
interrupted you,
problem.
but you were said you were happy that you don't have to drive the bus anymore, uh, because there's some stability. You know, I remember in those days you'd call, we need a meeting, we need a meeting, we gotta have a board meeting because we gotta approve this, we gotta approve that, we gotta approve this, we gotta approve that, and I said, my goodness,
Feels like
and we'd
COVID
have
all
a
over
board
again,
meeting
right?
scheduled. Yeah, and we just and we had a board, and we have a board that was flexible enough, and again shared the mission and the vision that they would change schedules and do what they had to do to make sure we had a quorum to get have that board meeting to get past what we needed to get past so we can stay compliant, et cetera, et cetera. Today, we still have emergency board meetings every now and then, but we now have more stability. and we have more maturity, and we plan our board meetings out, and we can meet those plans most of the time, unless something comes up every now and then. Whereas before, Dr. Good, as you know, it was a fire all the time. We were fire pit men and women, just running around putting out fires.
Well, and that's, you're right about that. COVID has put that sort of that sense back, but now we can do it virtually, which we couldn't do before.
Right,
We had
right,
to meet,
right.
but I don't think we've had one meeting where we didn't have quorum, not in 8 years. Can you think of that?
Not one,
Yeah.
not one.
So, Meegan,
And I have never missed a meeting
no,
in 8 years. I've never missed a board meeting.
no, and you hadn't gone virtual until COVID, I think. I think COVID was your first taste of.
I did one virtual
Before COVID?
before COVID. I did one
Okay.
virtual.
And now it feels natural to do virtual, right?
Yeah, I may not come back. I
So Meegan, what are
I
some
just
of
roll out of bed, grab my coffee.
your hat? Yep. So, Meegan, what are some of your memories of the last 7 years for you? Because I think you've been with us.
Yeah.
7 years.
I would say there have been so many obstacles for legacy, and it's been I've been very impressed with Dr. Good's ability to just keep moving forward, even when the obstacles seemed, overwhelming. There were times where we had a lot of hurdles to go over, and some of it we, by the grace of God, really, that we, managed to.
That's how we know there is a God, yeah, because, man, we should not have made it through some of those obstacles.
Yeah.
And yet.
Yeah, but you always kind of just kept your head down and kept moving forward, even when, the obstacles just kept coming. So I've always been really impressed with how you do that.
I agree.
And legacy at this point, we are strong. Academically we're strong. We're growing, we're getting gains in our testing, and in some ways, I think that that legislation that only gives startups 3 years is misguided, because you really have to give a charter an opportunity to get, to grow their students.
To get a
And,
foundation.
it was just unrealistic to give us 3 years to try to overcome the gaps that students were already coming in with, and be able to get them back on track within such a short period of time. But, anyway, it has been amazing to see Legacy, pull this off, and to come from 3 campuses in little school, in church facilities, to now having our 2 big campuses and continuing to grow. So it's been amazing to see this this school district go through what it's been through.
Here's one of the things that should have never happened, but that's amazing to me. Byron had us join a breakfast club, a Dallas breakfast club, when we still had a location in Dallas. And through that meeting, that once a month meeting, here's what happened. We knew that we needed to leave the churches, especially the Dallas church. That one just was not a comfortable fit for us. And so we were trying to buy that 12-acre property that we currently sit in, but it belonged to Parkland. And Parkland is more bureaucratic than almost anybody around. And so it just so happened that we'd been knocking on that door long enough. One of our employees had a sister-in-law that worked for Parkland high up. And so we had started making some inroads through that employee's relative to at least start opening up, letting us consider buying it. But you can't just have one entity be able to come out and buy it. They had to go through a process of selling it and so opening it to the public. And so they had finally gotten to that point where they were accepting bids. And we had sent our bid in to their realtor, and we had heard nothing. It was black hole. So there was a breakfast club meeting, and who should the speaker be but the president of Parkland? And so I went there. I don't remember if Byron was with me or not. And Byron, do you remember if you went to the meeting?
I was there, actually.
Oh, Meegan, okay. But wow,
Yeah,
isn't that a coincidence?
I remember that.
And we took with us
Yeah.
a copy of the letter of intent that we had sent to Parkland. And I slipped it to the sort of the person. When you're big and you're president of something big like that, you have a person that usually goes with you, sort of PR person, the handler maybe. And so I remember giving that letter of intent that we had sent so many weeks ago to that person. And then I talked to the president of Parkland about our intent and our need to have that property if at all possible. And we finally got some traction. So you see how all these little coincidences,
Yeah.
it's just another one of God's miracles. And so we then got the ability to at least go to the property, see it, and I don't know if you guys were with me, but we were allowed to go and tour it again. I think we'd already looked at it once. It was a mess inside because it was a medical facility that had been abandoned for 20 years, and it was part of a bid. So other people were able to go and look at it also. We put in a bid, and somehow we got it. We managed to get it and sweep it from other people. I know the church pastor that from Dallas had been trying to buy that building for years, that property, that 12 acres for years. And so again, the fact that we were able to sweep it out from other interested parties, again, speaks to, because we didn't have a lot of money to flash around. But I don't know, it was our intention to put in, public school there. If that one today, I don't know. I just know that we got it. And so Byron having us be part of the Breakfast Club, you were there, Meegan. Wow, it's just another one of
Yeah,
our,
Megan went because you remember I would go often, and I thought that the other board members should go. So
yeah.
I shouldn't always be me, but so they could get an opportunity to go. Because I
That-
think you could only have two of people from your organization go.
Okay, so yeah, I think I remember that. So we're out
Right.
close to the end of our time, folks. What do you think Legacy's future, how do you see moving forward our Legacy's future, especially through COVID?
Megan, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I think that we're doing an amazing job through COVID, so that's good news. I mean, we've been able to adapt to a more virtual setting for students and still maintain, good
Right.
academic standards for them. So that's good. I mean, in terms of how we manage the next year, I mean, I'm no expert, and I think, we'll be following the guidance and all of that to make sure we keep students safe and make sure they're still getting all their needs met. But long term, I think Legacy has the capacity to, add another campus down the road, continue to grow in that way to expand in ways to be a bigger school district in the community and serve more kids.
Right.
Great, thank you, Byron.
And hopefully, uh, well, a couple things. One, real quickly, I think that a part of the future of Legacy, or at least my optimism about the future of Legacy, is in Dr. Good's ability to focus. I mean, she just knows how to stay focused on what's important, right? It's not what you know, it's what you can think of in time. And so Dr. Good does that. But, I would like to see Legacy be involved in the arts, music as well, have a larger role in that with our kids in developing those senses and those talents.
That would be interesting. Maybe once we're through COVID and we know if kids can come to school all day, every day, and that's not sure yet. But if we
The
can,
arts. There you go.
well, and if we can maybe even tweak our charter to make it STEAM instead of STEM, right?
Right.
Mm.
Though
Right.
we do probably have a bigger arts present than what you think we have. Even during COVID and online, we have even secondary art electives, And so I can see that maybe that needs to be part of our discussion in our next board meeting to share what we're doing for summer school. Or maybe you guys need to look at our podcast, because we've done a podcast on our summer program, our elective program, our core program. And so I would encourage you guys to listen to our 2 or 3 weeks ago. And then we had the Vals on 2 weeks ago. We had the Sals on last week to hear from them. How did you get the top spot? And of course, Vals and Sals are usually decimal points, right? So you need the same traits for both those positions to get those positions. And you'll hear from them, of course, at the graduation ceremony.
Graduation.
On the 20th now. And but if you want to hear from them in person, go back and listen to our podcast. And then don't forget that we also, I'm also on the radio now on Wednesdays for a little bit on the JP, Kathy, and the Crew, and then I have my own radio show Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. on 1160 a.m., but I would listen through the Ask Dr. Be Good Facebook page, so you don't have to listen to the commercials. So, just so that you can know what's going on in public education. This is a national show. It goes out to several states. So being able to be an even bigger advocate for public education by hearing even more news about it so that you can be one of our public ed advocates when that legislative session starts in January and they look to see how they're going to cut, because we've been hurt economically, right? So anyway,
For sure.
Thank you for being on. Our time is up, but thank you for being the valuable board members that I won't even say friends of Legacy, but because that's not even close enough to what you guys have been to us in your guidance and so forth. So thank you, and we'll see you online Friday morning.
Thank you for
Okay,
tuning
thank
in
you,
to the
Dr.
Ask
Good.
Dr. Be Good show. For more information on Legacy Preparatory Charter Schools, visit our website, legacypca.com, or call 469-249-1099. And remember to like us on Facebook, where we stream live weekly Tuesdays at 3 p.m.